Hi, I'm Commissioner Mike McKeon, and I'd like to welcome everyone to another edition of the Public Works Pipeline. With me today is our Public Works Director, Paul McElhaney, and we're here to talk about the Highway Division. Highway is one of the 7 divisions of Public Works. It's also the second biggest division next to refuse. And if you care about paving, plowing, this is a show for you. We're going to cover all those points here for Highway. So, Paul, we call it the Highway Division, but a lot of the work actually doesn't occur on the highway. Is that right?
Correct. The Highway Division is in charge of maintaining and reconstruction of the roadways, the storm sewers and storm management associated with it, and also the sanitary sewers. They'll do the repairs if we have a break within the sanitary sewer system, along with the sewer department. But that's who conducts the actual like heavy construction part of it. Along with that, within highway, we maintain all the street signs, all the stop signs, all the no parking signs, all that fun stuff. So it's very broad what we do. One of the main things we do is we maintain those 240 miles of township roads. So,
Right, and I think there's 32 employees in Highway.
correct.
Now, who's responsible for the state roads in Lower Merion?
The state roads depends on when responsible. During snow events, we are responsible. We do the plowing for the state. We get a fee for doing so. It's calculated on lane miles. But when it comes to everything else with the state roads, the state is responsible. So the paving in those areas, storm drainage in those areas, potholes within the state roads, they are the responsibility of the state. The interesting part, or makes our day interesting, is residents call. They don't understand that the state has responsibilities within the township. And we say, well, we'll report the pothole to them. Well, why can't you fix the pothole? Because of insurance reasons and such, we don't do those. We don't do that kind of stuff. We communicate on a daily basis with them if there's an issue. But snow, we take care of. The rest of the year, they take care of.
Now, is City Line Avenue a state road?
City Avenue, not City Line. And there's a former commissioner that would take issue with you if you said that. It is state. It is a state road. Interesting enough, you have 2 PennDOT districts who have oversight of it. So when we call, it can be interesting and who has what responsibilities on what day for City Avenue.
Right, and in the parlance of our times, it's City Avenue. Understood. All right, so let's get into snow removal here a little bit. Is
Yes.
Public Works getting pretty salty about pre-treatment?
Well, we pre-treat. We're in the process of looking at brining and other alternatives. In the area, it's split about 50-50, those that brine, those that pre-treat or pre-salt like we do. And how we do what we do is we will wait until right before the onset of an event, especially if they're calling for rain to start the event, we won't pre-treat. But if they're not calling for rain, we will send the trucks out and we pre-treat by salting the roads. We'll start roughly an hour and a half to 2 hours beforehand, so that the salt's down. And that's how we pre-treat our roads in case when a storm event's about to occur.
And I've just noticed sort of a faction of people who are big brine supporters. I don't know if we call them briners, but why would the township decide to salt instead of brine for pre-treatment?
Well, as I noted earlier, it's split 50-50. We're actively and have been actively looking at brining and other alternatives like beet juice and so forth to see what may work best. Brining in ideal conditions works about 15% of the time. Can be diluted if there's a rain event, depends on the humidity. It's more corrosive to automobiles. So we're weighing out all that information to try to see what will work best for us. As noted, it works 15% of the time. The part of the concern or misconception. A lot of people think brining is the end all. You don't have to do anything else. You brine, you're good. Those communities that brine do the same as us. Once the event begins, they're putting down salt. Brining has ended. It's a pre-wet, pre-treatment. As I equated, it's the same as putting down like your cooking spray before you cook. Same as what we do with the salt. Varying opinions as to effectiveness of each. And as I said, we're working our way through that, along with looking at costs and so forth.
Yeah, and with salting too, and one of the reasons it's done is if the salt's on the road before the snow hits, that prevents the snow from forming a bond with
Correct.
the road. And if you brine, that's a liquid solution, and I know that depending on the temperature, that can wash away and become
Well,
effective.
along with wash away, if depending on the type of temperatures and so forth, and if the concentration's not exact with brine, you can actually cause icing. So as I noted, we are working our way through information on all different alternatives to see if there's something that would be more environmentally friendly, a little more cost effective than how we actively do it now.
Well, we saw unbelievable snowfall in February 2021. How has that affected and impacted the Public Works budget and the Public Works salt budget?
I don't have final numbers yet. We are definitely over budget on our allocation for salt this year. Fortunately, we started off ahead because last year was a light year and we had full silos or nearly full silos. Um, we're still waiting for final billings. What a lot of individuals don't realize is all the parking lots, all the parking cutouts, and all that snow is removed after a snow event. We bring in independent contractors, their trucks, and our staff loads those trucks and moves it out. So currently I'm waiting for the last of those bills to come in, but we are in excess of our budget at this point. So this spring, this winter has not been very nice to us.
Now, when we have a snow event, the roads are plowed on a priority system. I think it's a priority 1, 2, and 3. Can you explain the way the priority system works?
Yeah, priority ones, twos, and threes, as you noted. Priority ones are your main roads, your Lancaster Avenue, your Montgomery Avenue, your major arteries. Then you have your priority twos, which are your less traveled secondary streets. And then your priority threes are more like your cul-de-sacs and such. So the priority ones are done so that emergency vehicles, even the general public, if you can get out to your priority one, you can make it to the hospital, you can make it to the store and that type of stuff. Um, when the snow event really starts to roll or come down heavy, we concentrate on just keeping the priority ones open to get emergency vehicles, the police, mass transit through. Then as it lightens up, we get into our priority twos, and then we move into our priority threes. One issue that we do encounter a lot, Mike, is people that live in cul-de-sacs and all. The snow stopped 2 hours ago. You haven't been here. Why aren't you here yet? Well, we still need to clear the priority ones and the priority twos, and then we get to the threes. The other issue we run into is individuals don't realize that we try to get into the priority threes, but we use a term called punch in. In other words, the truck tries to get down the street and at least open up a lane. That doesn't mean the roadway's cleared or we're finished, but we'll get calls. The truck was here, they didn't finish clearing the road. I just ask people to be patient. It takes us several hours after a snow event ends for us to even get close to being done for cleaning up. And then many times we're cleaning up and another event comes in, and like it did this year.
Now, if a resident were to build a snowman on their property in the likeness of, say, you or me, would that cause their street to be plowed more quickly?
Well, yours, we might have more plows on it if it was shaped like you, just so we could throw snowballs. But all kidding aside, no, it doesn't. It doesn't affect it. We run our priorities. We do, we also work in hand with the police department. If there's an emergency, they will call us. We have, communication right there directly in what we call Snow Command. We'll send the immediate response to clear. If it was a priority three that needed an ambulance in there, we would have it cleared immediately for them. We We're not that stringent that we don't, that we can't break away, but that's the way we work. When it does come to plowing, if I could mention, Mike, um, people complain because you buried our sidewalk. You came down the street, you plowed, you buried our sidewalk because you came down again. My recommendation to residents is just because we've gone down your street does not mean we're done. We will make several passes. Some streets make it 8, 10, 12 passes over the course of an entire storm. Expect the sidewalks to be covered. We go curb to curb. If there's very little verge next to your sidewalk, that's where the snow is going to go. It's going to go on the corners. I personally have to dig out my corner every snowstorm so the crossing guard can cross the kids. Other recommendation, we get complaints about, I dug out my driveway, you buried my driveway. My recommendation is stop short of the edge of your end of your driveway. Leave a barrier there. When the plow comes down the street, if there's an opening, there's no resistance for the snow. It slips right off the plow into that area. So leave it so that the snows get spread along your entire curb line, or dig out next to your driveways, an area, and the snow will release there. But leave a barrier. If not, friction or lack thereof, the snow's going in the end of the driveway. And we can't go down the street, turn in the blade, straighten in the blade. It doesn't work that way.
Before we go to our break here, can you just explain in terms of sidewalks, which sidewalks does the township cover? Which ones were our residents expected to take care of? And what should residents do after a snowstorm for their sidewalk?
We take care of numerous sidewalks throughout the township. And we'll do it after the snowfall. We do it at the public buildings, along with the parks, the outside of the parks and all over township building and so forth. The residents, after they quote last snowflake, are given 24 hours to open up their sidewalk to a 36-inch pathway, so that the general public can access and use that sidewalk.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Paul. We're going to take a break, but please stick around because we'll be back in a little bit to talk about paving. Hi, I'd like to welcome everyone back to the Public Works Pipeline. And before we get into the paving episode portion, rather, I do have some disappointing news to share. The Public Works Pipeline trading card set, which I know many of you were waiting for, we've had some production delays, and unfortunately, we do not have any kind of dates or deadlines. I don't know if we'll be able to get the sets out by the holiday season. I take full responsibility for this, 100% responsibility. At the same time, Director McElhaney still has not given us permission to his image in the card set. And until we have his permission, we can't go forward with the set. So, Paul, I know we've been talking about your contract here and trying to get you some more M&Ms, but if you can see it in your heart to make yourself available in this set, I mean, please do it for the kids, Paul, if you can.
I'll think about it, Mike. I'll think about it.
Thank you. Thank you, Paul. All right, now we're going to touch on potholes very briefly here. Time of year potholes are popping up all over the place. The township fills hundreds of potholes every year. Paul, what can residents do if they see a pothole?
It's very simple. There's several numbers that they can call, our potline hotline, or directly to our office. Also, there is the app that you can use, the reported app, but all three ways gets the pothole to us, and we have numerous crews out addressing them daily.
All right, just like the road to hell, the roads in Lower Merion are paved with the best of intention. What's the purpose of paving?
Well, I mean, paving is to keep the road surface passable, drivable. Ask anybody, they prefer a newly paved road versus an older road. We pave yearly. We pave roughly about 200,000 square yards of paving per year. We use a rating system to decide how we're going to pave or what's going to get paved, along with working in conjunction with all the utility companies. So due to the amount of infrastructure work going on by the utility companies, we are using them kind of as a roadmap, in that the areas they're working in, we look at the pockets surrounding those areas so that we can try to finish those pockets in that immediate area, to help with our bidding and our cost. So as I noted, we do about 200,000 square yards a year. A lot of it's based on where the utilities are. We budget about $1.5 million a year of township funds. And then we receive contributions from the utilities. When they open the road, we used to require them to repave the section of road that they open. And usually that meant half the road because they would work on one side of the road. Many of the residents don't like the look of having only half the road done. So we leverage their money with our money, and we try to do the entire road surface, curb to curb. So that way the road is fresh from side to side.
And I think it's important to note the timeline too. I mean, we got a paving list very recently from Public Works for the spring. And then that work will probably get finalized. We'll decide where it's going, and then paving will occur in the summer. And then there'll be some restoration work perhaps after that. But I think residents need to understand that if there is some utility work or other things on the road, it's really difficult to get a full pave that year, just because there simply isn't enough time. And on that note, Paul, is there anything you could tell the Hillers out there about the work on Mary Watersford Road this year?
Well, before you jump to Mary Watersford, just a little bit, we do coordinate with the utility companies, and if we try to get commitment out of them that certain areas will be done. If we know that a certain area can be done before we release our paving our list, we will include that area if we can. If not, we then require them to do trench restoration. They fill the trench daily, and it sinks, and that's what we're waiting for. We're waiting for all that settlement to occur. Then when they go back, they rotomill out wider than the trench, and then they recompact, and they do a trench restoration. And then the following year is when we get to doing the trench. So you will see, they work for a day and it's smooth, and then it gets bumpy. We work with them to make sure after 30 days, and they have enough trench to justify bringing in the equipment, we have them do the trench restoration. Mary Watersford. Unfortunately, Mike, we had that scheduled for this year, and I know you and I have spoken to the residents that drive that all through the summer that was going to be scheduled for this year. Best laid plans. We received information from Aqua in our meetings that they intend to bring a new water main straight through Mary Watersford, right down into Belmont Hills, and do intend to do a lot of service restoration or improvement through a good section of Belmont Hills. So Mary Watersford, along with some other roads, will be held up until next year. They are already moved to the 2022 paving list, but they're on hold. We also had go ahead.
Well, you mentioned rotomilling and restoration. Can you just explain, there's rotomilling, right? There's resurfacing, restoration. Can you explain those in sort of layman's terms?
Well, essentially, when we rotomill, is they're taking off the top a couple inches of paving, and then we will repave that section of road. We do that in preparation for all paving. We will mill and prepare the surface. Restoration is essentially, we talked about that. That's trench restoration, where we'll have them go in and restore the trench and so forth. So that's kind of the distinction there. We do some road restorations, but usually we'll save that for our staff in-house, where the sub base is non-existent. Some of our roads were just built on ballast, and really because they're so old. So there are times when we have to go in and get down to sub base and build a new road. We did that last year on Landfirst Circle over here in Ardmore, because the road was that there really wasn't a road there.
And you mentioned staff will do some in-house work. Who does most of the actual paving?
Well, staff has the ability and the knowledge to pave. The issue or concern is it would take us away from all the other tasks. So we will contract out the paving list each year. But we do have a crew that's out all summer that will work in conjunction with that contractor. They'll do leveling course and so forth after the rotomilling or the milling's done, if needed. But they'll also take on smaller sections of road that we're not ready to put out for the paving contract yet. You may have part of a street, one block section, they'll do that. Or we'll have, like I said, we'll have a road that needs to be rebuilt or restored. They'll do that type of work through the course of the summer.
Now, in terms of steep streets, like there's a bunch obviously in Belmont Hills or Rockland, Highland. Is there anything that complicates paving a steep street?
Well, there's two things. We found that the new PennDOT mix does not work well on the steep streets. Any vehicle that's parked starts to push the asphalt. And then along with that, just in general, it makes it hard for the roller. If you think about it, you have a big machine that has a steel wheel, a large, everybody's seen a steamroller, and they're trying to go up or down that hill. I don't envy the operator of the piece of equipment that has to do it, but that's one of the issues. As noted, the new super mix does not really hold up well to park traffic or weight of vehicles. Last year, we had to go back to what they call the old Marshall mix because we had paved a street and it pushed. And that was the second time it had pushed. And so we had to have the asphalt plant make the old mix for us to be able to keep the cars from pushing the asphalt.
All right, let's talk about Lower Merion for a little bit. Traffic calming, it's been more of an issue, and the Highway Division is involved in traffic calming a little bit. What kind of stuff is Highway working on?
Well, there's a multitude of things that are under consideration. We're going to be doing rumble strips that were just approved by the board, where we'll be milling those in sometime in the spring or early summer. We'll do the thermoplastic rumble strips where we apply 2 layers on the street to give you a raised surface. We're doing fog lines. And this year we will be installing speed pillows on River Road. All of these items, the speed pillows is under contract. We're waiting for a scheduled date to start that. But the other things like the rumble strips and so forth, we have to wait for final design to come from the engineer. Once we receive it, then we'll put it into our schedule.
Yeah, and you mentioned rotomilling, and this is really just digging some grooves in the ground. I know Ashland Avenue was approved for a transverse rumble strip, just for the people who live on Ashland, so they know. I mean, this isn't some big strip sticking out of the ground. These are just some grooves that are dug in and supposed to slow traffic like 1 to 4 miles per hour or so.
Correct. But as I know, we have to wait for the final approved drawing from the engineer. It'll go through traffic safety. They sign it and they sign off on it. Then it comes to us and gets put into our system for schedule.
Is Highway involved in any street sweeping?
Yes, in 2 different ways. We do have a street sweeper. We'll use it if we get if we have an issue and an area needs to be cleaned up or we're doing road construction. But we also contract out 3 times a year to have the township swept. We usually do it in the spring. We do it in the fall, so that we get everything cleaned up. But we do it 3 times a year. We use a subcontractor. We're in our final year with the contractor now, and we'll be, I'm pretty sure it's the final year, and we'll be looking to put that out for bid again.
All right, we only have about a minute left or so, and just ask Paul if you can explain what kind of work Highway does when it comes to street signs.
Street signs. If you see it, we either paint it, replace it, or put it in place. We paint the historic street signs. We replace signs that are damaged. We also look at signs for reflectivity, and they have to be replaced every so many years so that the reflectivity is there. So we have a crew that's out daily that's composed, I think, of about 6 guys. That's all they do is, well, they do more than just the street signs, but that's their main focus: street signs and traffic control.
Well, Paul, thank you very much. I know you weren't expecting the Spanish Inquisition today, but we asked a ton of questions, and I thank you for all the answers. And I thank everyone else for tuning in. We'll hope to be back next month with another episode of Public Works Pipeline. Thank you.